So today I want to talk about love. The idea of love that we've been fed is a scam. When we think about fairy tales, the happily ever after happens after you fall in love and you get married. It subconsciously sends a message that our happiness lies in other people. So I got some words of wisdom recently. Seeking happiness in external factors, people, materialistic items, social status, is a sign that there is a deficit of happiness within. This is $100, okay? Boiling. This $100 makes me happy. If this $100 is stolen, or if I spend all of it and I can't get money back, what happens to my happiness at that point? My happiness would be depleted because I put so much emphasis on this $100 making me happy when that $100 probably wasn't going to be there in the long run. I believe the phrase happiness is fleeting is common because we've normalized finding happiness in places, people, things that are fleeting. However, if we find happiness within ourselves, we have an endless supply of happiness as long as we are breathing. That internal happiness will always be our compass to recenter and ground ourselves. I use the example of $100, but this $100, money, is not my vice. Never has been. I'm not a materialistic person. It's great to have things, but I don't base a lot of my worth on having the biggest house, the nicest car, the nicest clothes. My vice is love. What did Jay-Z say? Love. I don't get enough of it. All I get is these vampires and bloodsuckers. Feel that on a spiritual level. Love, love, love. As I reflect on my time here on this earth, your girl is definitely guilty of looking for love in all the wrong places. But even when I was seeking love in the right places, I had an unhealthy relationship with the idea of love because I realized that subconsciously I had been looking for another person to fill voids that I have, to kind of make me feel a sense of completion. And I think that a lot of people can kind of relate to that sentiment, and that's why we have phrases like my other half. If you're looking for someone to be your other half, that means that essentially you're showing up as a half version of yourself. You're operating at 50%. You need someone else to bring in that other 50%. I am trying to reframe the way that I see love, where I'm looking for someone to compliment me versus looking for someone to complete me. I've always joked around and said that I'm a hopeless romantic. And I think that people who consider themselves hopeless romantics, you know, the people who fall in love with the idea of love, these are the people who really lacked love and affection as a child. And so it's like you're constantly chasing after something that you've never seen. You wanted to experience it, but because you didn't experience it, you don't really know what that true love looks like. And that's when we find ourselves in situations where we are experiencing unrequited love. We're constantly chasing or pining after people. Or maybe we feel like we have to jump from relationship to relationship in some kind of way, even if it's just sexual. We always have to have some sort of attachment to someone because we don't know what it's like to love on ourselves, right? To be content with ourselves. And so we're seeking that again in other people. And speaking on loving on yourself, I wanted to give you guys an update on my experience with Magic Mind. Magic Mind gives me energy and keeps my vibes high so that I can love on myself. So if you're interested, use the code Tynesha20 to save some coins. I want to expand on this idea of loving without attachment, because I think that's why so many of us find ourselves in situationships nowadays. We meet a person, we vibe with them, sex is usually involved, and we begin to have feelings of ownership over them. We feel like they owe us something because we have become connected to them. And a lot of us mistake those intense feelings for love when we're actually operating out of attachment. So I came across a video about loving without attachment.
The way to love without attachment is to treat people like cats. Cats come when they please, not when you call them, and they leave when they want. In my neighborhood, there is a neighborhood cat, a Siamese, and the two of us enjoy each other's company, probably, at least in part, because I like to put milk out for it. I'm never really sure when I'll see it again, but if I put out good milk, the cat will come back. I have no idea what that cat gets up to when it's not around, but when the cat is not there, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not worried about it. I'm not wondering if it misses me. I'm not suspicious that it's at somebody else's house. And that's because I have other things to do with my life. When it's there, I'm with it completely for a pleasant moment. And when it's gone, it disappears entirely from my consciousness. I'm not waiting for the cat to come back. But if I put out good milk, it probably will. If that cat is drinking someone else's milk, that's not your cat. That cat does not belong to you. That cat belongs to the neighborhood.
When we are operating in the highest form of ourselves, we just are on a higher vibration. We know the value that we bring into our relationships, and we're really, really secure within ourselves. That is going to attract people, right? People are going to gravitate to you, aka you have the best milk. You stand out from the others. You know your worth. You know what you are bringing to the quote unquote table. When we reach that level of security within ourselves, we're not worried about what the other person is doing, right? We're not worried about the cat going to house A, house B, house C, getting their fix, their milk from other people, because we know we have the best milk on the block. We don't even have to worry about that. Now, even if that cat was going around to different houses trying to get their fix because they didn't fully understand the quality of the milk that we provide, that is your cue to understand that that's not your cat. That cat is for the streets. Do you get my drift? So when it comes to love, dating, I realized that in most of my relationships, I've been operating in the opposite of that. Whenever someone isn't focusing on me the way that I want them to, if I really wanted a relationship and that person didn't commit, I very much internalize it. And again, that has a lot to do with internal deficits within myself. Insecurity, lack of self-love for even putting up with things like that if it bothered me, but just really being unsure of myself, and that projected onto my relationships. Because again, if you're secure within yourself, there might be people who do some BS, right? They might disrespect you, so on and so forth. You're not going to stay in that situation and complain about it and try to get that person to change and get them to understand that you are tied to me, you're connected to me, you're attached to me, and you should adhere by these guidelines. You would just kind of bow out gracefully and walk away because it doesn't align with you, with your values, and you're so confident in what you have to offer that you know just because this person didn't appreciate it, that doesn't mean that someone else won't come around who will. But many of us don't know how to do that. This inability to love or care for someone without attachment is one of the reasons why I believe dating is so tough. It's rare to come across people who are solid, who you really connect with. So when you finally do come across that person, we tend to want ownership over them. When you truly love someone, the goal should be to appreciate and love them as they are, not forcing them to be something that we need them to be, not taking away from their autonomy, not making them feel like they're suffocating by being with us. I don't want you to dress this way. I don't want you to be friends with these people. I don't want you to go out. I don't want you to do all the things that you identified with as a person before I met you, because they don't align with who I want you to be. That is not love. That is attachment. This is something that I really have to check myself on, because I do have a tendency to hyper focus on someone once my little feelings get involved. In one of my recent dating experiences, I came across someone who said they wanted all the things. They wanted marriage, they wanted kids, they wanted the home, they wanted to build together. But it became quite obvious that the idea of committing in this moment in their life was something that was very difficult for them. Because I had already painted this picture of who I wanted them to be, I picked out the things that they said that sounded good and I created a version of them, a facade of who I needed them to be. If you could just get your stuff together, we can be together for 100 years and have a bunch of babies and be happy, but you just need to be this person that I need you to be in this moment. Even though you're showing me that you can't be that person in this moment. And I got really mad at that person because I felt like they were selling me a dream. But then I realized that I sold my own self a dream. And I think that both men and women are honestly guilty of this. We have this idea of who we want in a partner, and we come across someone who might show an inkling of some of those qualities, but we feel like we can kind of coach them into being who we need them to be. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for having patience with someone and, helping them grow. But that's something that the person has to want for themselves. And there's a difference between I'm coaching you through this because this is something that you've identified that you want, but you just might need a little bit more guidance. And this is something that you're clearly showing that you don't want, don't desire, or are incapable of doing. And I'm trying to push you to fit that mold. We are all experiencing life and observing others do the same. It is completely selfish and rooted in ego for us to try to force someone to be who we want them to be when they are not in a space in their journey to do so. In those type of situations, we are prioritizing our desires over the person who we claim to care about, to love. I've had experiences where I've been the one to break someone's heart, and I hate it. It really, really makes me feel bad inside. But I couldn't be the person that they needed me to be, but they didn't force it. And that is true love. Everything in my life leading up to this point has shaped me into being the person who I am today. Even though I hate the fact that I couldn't show up for people in the way that they needed, and that was hurtful to them in that moment, I'm grateful that I had people who cared about me enough to set me free, even when it conflicted with what they wanted. Giving someone the space to discover themselves on their own journey, even though you want nothing more than to have them be a part of yours, that is love. And we are more likely to be able to give that form of raw, authentic, genuine love if we feel like we already possess love within ourselves. But many of us aren't operating out of love. We're operating in attachment.